Nellie Brown and her husband Jack first arrived in what would become Anchorage, Alaska in 1912, even before the railroad and Tent City. As the story goes, when the Anchorage Times newspaper reporters got off work in the 1960s, they would head over to Club 25. Once there, they would buy Nellie Brown a beer. Her favorite was Olympia, by the way, and she would tell them stories about the very early days of Anchorage. John Jack Brown met Nellie Edith Shepard in Cordova, Alaska in 1911. The two were married on May 1st, 1912 in Cordova, and soon after traveled by boat to the Upper Cook Inlet and Ship Creek, where Jack began working as a forest ranger. A tent on Ship Creek that served as the Forest Service office was also the Browns' home when they first arrived in what would become Anchorage. Early homesteaders J.D. Bud Whitney and his wife Daisy had built a 10-foot by 14-foot cabin that later became the Browns' home. And the Browns made their furniture out of grocery store crates. When Nellie Brown spoke of the area back then, she said, "It was very peaceful and quiet. Nothing unusual happened." And things were very spread out in those days. The Browns got their mail in Eagle River at a roadhouse along the Iditarod Trail, and for supplies, they had to go all the way across Cook Inlet to Knik. In 1913, Jack and Nellie built their own 3-room cabin on Ship Creek Flats. In 1914, things changed when the railroad set up a camp and a tent city full of railroad workers sprang up on the muddy banks of Ship Creek. Then, in 1920, the Browns moved to a homestead about 5 miles out of Anchorage on Green Lake, where they built a log cabin and a chicken house. They named the area Alderbrook. In 1940, the land was selected by the U.S. Army Air Force to become Elmendorf Field, now Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. The Browns sold Alderbrook, their homestead, for $2,500. And by the way, Alaskan artist Sidney Lawrence had met Nellie's family in Cordova and remained a close friend of the Browns, who had a collection of Sidney Lawrence paintings. Nellie and Jack returned to Anchorage in 1925, and in 1927 they moved into a cottage on Government Hill at 349 Harvard Avenue, where they stayed for most of their lives. In the 1940s, a surplus railroad passenger car became Nellie's Diner in Anchorage. It was a success. Nationally known comedian Joe E. Brown even ate there when visiting Anchorage. There is so much more to this story, but we'll have to leave the Browns this way. Jack Brown passed away in 1972. Nellie Brown continued to live on Government Hill until she moved to the Alaska Pioneer Home in Palmer. She passed away in 1978 at the age of 86 after living over 60 years in Anchorage. Did you enjoy this edition of the Anchorage Memories VIP Club and podcast? Well, the pioneers who first came to the mouth of Ship Creek and helped begin the town of Anchorage were indeed a hardy breed. Well, thank you for listening to this edition. Be sure to join us next time. This is Mike of Anchorage Memories.